Welcome, bitches. This is the With Love Nick podcast. There is nothing off limits here. Oh, get on your power panties. Success happens on the other side of conventional thinking. I say this all the time because when I was conventionally thinking, it left me burnt out and drunk. Welcome to this week's episode of the With Love Nick podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of With Love Nick. I have an extraordinary human being with me here today. And lo and behold, we were supposed to record last week and it just wasn't the time. We had some technical difficulties. And in between this time, this special guest of mine, I will introduce her shortly, had made a post that was not made before we were supposed to record last week. And I was like, this is it. This is what we were meant to talk about. So without further ado, I am bringing in Jaclyn Shaw. She is a spiritual teacher. Her words are activate your voice, your power, and your truth. And I myself have worked with Jack. I will be continuing to work with Jack throughout the year, but I'm just going to let her take the floor and introduce herself in her own voice from her own soul, because I truly believe that we have our own ways of explaining this very deep, special work that we do. So hello, Jack. Welcome to the With Love Nick podcast.
Hello, gorgeous. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for having me here. As we dive in, I'm just going to start by saying I love how quickly you and I have came into this like resonance with each other, how quickly we've been able to drop in and just find these soul truths and this resonance. And of course, even the way that you lead in your podcast, like I love as we went to hit record, you're like, we're just diving straight in. And this is exactly how I operate as well, like just real, raw, no agenda. And for me, this is where always the most powerful conversations come forward when we're like, let's just go. Like, let's just see what there is to bring to the surface here today, and trusting and allowing the listeners to receive in this way. And I wanted to start off there because this is very much how I lead in my life, in my business, is I lead and I teach and I mentor through my lived wisdom, my lived experiences, my embodied wisdom. It's not me controlling it or trying to figure out like how it's going to land for you or what you're going to receive. It's I get to be the purest expression of who I am, my truth, my love. And this is where I know people get to deeply receive, because the work that I do is all about bringing you deeper into your own remembrance, deeper into your truth, deeper into your connection with the God within you. And so I truly, profoundly believe the more that I speak my truth, the more you speak your truth, the more that we speak
Yes.
our truth, the more each and every one of us finds our own truth within. And it doesn't mean that my truth and your truth needs to be the same, but when we're willing to be in the expression of who we are, it's a gift for everyone that surrounds us.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, I just love us so much. And what you said in the beginning of just hitting record and trusting. And I mean, it's been that way with us from the beginning. It was like there was no how, there was no controlling the situation. There wasn't even an end goal, right? It was just I trusted myself and I trusted you and I trusted the way that we move and the way we converse and the way that just everything developed. And so when I'm a generator in HD, and so I like things very organized because I exhaust my energy in such a way throughout the day that I can sleep really fucking good, because I also lucid dream and I love doing that, but I can't do it when I'm overtired. And so usually when things kind of get off track, I'm like, I throw a little temper tantrum. Oh my gosh. And it was just like, when this happened with us last week, I just trusted. I knew. I was like, okay, well, this gives me more time to get ready for date night. This gives whatever the hell is supposed to happen between now and then, because something's meant to happen. And as soon as you created that post, the belief code of living makes me money, I was like, this is it. This is what we're meant to talk about, because like you are just a living, breathing embodiment of this lifestyle. And so I really want to dive into this. I really want to dive into this because it's like, the way you explained it, this is the formula This is the formula of living your life and experiencing the things that we are meant to experience to evolve. And a lot of the work that you do, like you said in the beginning, is remembrance and that deep soul searching and things that aren't conventional, things that we have been kind of conditioned to not think about or not explore in our life. And so I would really love for you to dive deeper into the belief code of living makes me money and what that means in the sense of discovering in the realm of remembrance and that deep soul searching that's required to, I mean, even really believe that just living will make you money. I would love for you to dive into what that means to you.
Yeah, I will happily dive in here, but I'm going to backtrack for 1 second first because I think it's so important to really know. And when I say know, it's like mind knowing, soul knowing, to feel the truth in this, that everything is decided in energy first. Everything is felt, experienced in frequency first before it's made manifest or before we are able to see it in our current reality in this physical realm. And so when we're looking at the things that we believe and the belief codes, oftentimes there's this energy around belief. Is like, well, I wanna believe, or I'm, like, crossing my fingers, I'm hoping that this is, possible, I'm hoping it's available, I'm hoping it can come true, and belief for me, I do a lot of work with my clients around really excavating these, like, deep belief codes that are often rooted so deeply in that we're not even aware of them, and these belief codes, when we're not aware, there's a lot of untruths living in our energy field that's creating a lot of distortions. And so this
Mhm.
tends to put us in this belief energy of, like I said, like hoping, wishing, crossing our fingers for it, which is very different than this energy of belief codes. It's like a belief at a soul level. So shifting
Mm,
from the mind knowing to the soul knowing, like that deep, unwavering faith, that deep, like full activated trust. That's what I mean when I say belief. It's like
yes.
belief in knowing. And then my experience within this is that the formula is the belief shifting to the knowing, then we shift to the experiencing.
Mm, I love that. I love the way that you articulated that. I love the way that you're like, okay, it needs to it needs to evolve. It's like the formula needs to evolve because there is that season that a lot of people go through in their lives where it's like, okay, well, I want to get to know myself on a deeper level. I want to dive into the codes that I've never dove into before, but then there is that hoping. I hope that this is right for me. I am praying that this is right for me. Crossing my lucky stars that this is right for me. But then it shifts into that knowing, that belief. Where do you feel is the most important work where people can experience this shift from like, okay, I want to dive into this, but I'm scared as fuck, number one. And I have no idea how to get to the point where I fully trust myself and believe that this is the path for me. Where do you feel that if someone was listening right now and was deciding to ascend into that next level of self-exploration, deep self-exploration, what would be the most important work to get them from hoping and praying to really truly believing that that's the path they're meant to take?
Well, the place that we really want to lead into is trusting in the unknown, finding magic in the unknown, understanding that the unknown, that from a human lens and a human perspective feels so scary and uncomfortable and uncertain. And, a lot of fear comes up in the unknown. But when we can surrender in the unknown, when we can deeply trust in the unknown, well, that's when the quantum leaps happen. That's when the quantum energy shifts. That's when the miracles, the things beyond what we can see with our human eyes, which are very limited, like what we see with our human eyes are limited. That's when we can see through the eyes of our soul. Like that's where the dance is. But often we try to do everything we can to avoid the unknown. We resist it. And so the step between here is looking at, okay, where do I try to control things? Where do I force? Where do I only believe if I have the evidence? Where do I only believe if I can see? Where am I not willing to get curious, to explore, to play because I have the fears of what it goes this way? What if it doesn't serve me? What if it goes wrong? And so this anchoring into this knowing that everything serves you on this journey. And while it may not feel like it serves your human agenda, you can be sure it's serving your soul agenda. And that means the pain, the heartbreak, the
Mm.
joy, the bliss, like all of it. And so, a big piece of this for myself, in my journey really into trust and surrender, because people ask me this all the time. Like, so much of my work is leading clients into like deeply trusting in who they are, deeply trusting in their voice, deeply trusting in what they feel called to do, create, deeply trusting in what they feel called to let go of. And so I often get asked, but how do you trust so deeply? And I feel like the beginning of this and my journey was like really also knowing like I'm going to be okay. And not because anything outside of me tells me that. It's like, yeah, the universe has got my back, God's got my back, because like, and I've got my back. Like, I know that I'm gonna be okay, and so I trust in the full human journey. I trust in the full human experience, and for me, it's trusting when I follow the whispers of my soul, when I listen to my intuition, that means I'm connected to source, I'm connected to God, and so I believe that this is where I invite God to play with me. I invite God to meet me in this frequency of truth, of trust.
Mm. Wow, that deeply resonated with me. I would love to ask you. I'm getting a little sidetracked because I I have a question to ask you, but when it comes to like the success of your business being generated from the trust that you have in your vision, when did that start to really unfold into the living and experiencing, bringing you, having that belief code of that bringing you more money than maybe putting more time and effort into your business model? Like, I understand that you are a woman of resonating with her truth, and that's been a part of your journey for the majority, if not all of your life. But was there ever a time in your business where it started off in more of a traditional way, and then you started to really, really dive deeper into this living and experiencing is what is making me the most money in my business right now?
1000%. Like I can pinpoint that moment for you, but to take you back before that moment, like I very much used to have the belief codes and the evidence of working hard makes me money. Like trading time for money makes me money. Like I used to very much have the belief codes like, no, I've got to give more, I've got to do more, I've got to, and I built a very successful seven-figure business in that way. And well, I loved the work I was doing and I loved the clients I was serving and what I was leading in and teaching in. I was very much, I would say, consumed by my business. And even when I wasn't in my business or working with clients, there was still always like the thoughts of my business, and there was the thoughts of, and what comes next, and how do I serve more people and impact more people and make more money. And so there was always this like, there's got to be a next level of doing in order to receive more. And this is where I started to really look at the belief codes I had around doing and receiving, like giving and receiving, like only feeling worthy to receive after this formula had been completed. Like I can only receive after XYZ. And so I started to, again, really just dismantle these untruths that I say here. It's like I started to look at it and was like, is this actually true? Like, can I prove that this is what's required? This is what's needed for me to grow, for me to reach more people, for me to have more impacts, for me to make more money? And I was like, that's no, that's a story I've bought into. That's a story that I'm hanging on to. That's a story I've made up. That's evidence that I have because that's evidence I created based on what I believe. And so this for me was like, what do I actually want to experience? And this was a moment that was about a year and a half ago in my business. I had been, you know, 9 months or so into launching my personal brand at this point, and I was like, "What do I really wanna create right now?" And I was like, more spaciousness in my life, more spaciousness in my schedule, because I know for me, when I have spaciousness, like, that's when I serve my people the best. That's when I serve myself my best. That's when the truth comes pouring forth within me. So if I'm caught up in this energy I talked about before, where it's like always in my head and what comes next and this and that, I knew that wasn't serving me at the highest level. And I knew it wasn't serving my audience or my clients at the highest level either. And so there was this little like whisper, it felt like, come in. I was in my shower and it was like more spaciousness. And I was like, okay, this is the desire, is more spaciousness. And it's like, well, then what does that look like? And it was looking like letting go of selling in the way that I had always done it, like on social
Mm,
media. And it was like, just dedicate your year. This was at the end of 2022. And I was like, dedicate next year, dedicate 2023, which would be the second year of growing my personal brand. Dedicate it to living and loving and create all the spaciousness. Don't focus on selling and live your life and see what happens. And did it feel scary? Like, yes, at this point, also, I had just decided that that seven-figure business I had built with my business partner, that it felt complete. So this was about 2 days before that whole income stream had disappeared. And I was like, because people ask me, they're like, well, was it easy for you to make this decision? Because you already had the success, you already had, and no, like this was a very scary decision for me. Like, and I mean, it's kind of a lie. Like, wait a second, let's come into the truth here. Like, was it a very scary decision? It was definitely this leap into the unknown that I talked
oh,
about here. And yeah, did it feel uncomfortable is probably the better word. It felt uncomfortable because it was very wildly unknown. And I am financially the provider in my family right now as well. So it was very unknown, but it felt like such deep resonance in my soul. It just felt like the soul truth. It felt like I can't not. I can't. And I knew. I was like, if I don't do this, because I felt it in my soul now, if I don't choose this experience, if I keep operating the way I have before, it was like everything's gonna dry up. Like the soul clients are not going to be aligned with you. Like all of a sudden the offers are going to disappear, the money's going to disappear. And it's like you've got to stand in your truth, is what I felt. And really 2023 for me was a year so dedicated to living and loving. Like I think all the reels I created in that year that I posted on my social media were literally like my family and I on this adventure and on this travel and through this experience. And even in the simplest of moments, it allowed me the gift of being so present in my life, so deep in my connection to
mm,
God, so deep in my connection to my family, to nature, to living. And in August of 2023, my dad passed away very suddenly. And I've talked about my experience with navigating his death so much on my own podcast. But why I wanted to bring that in here is I could see right in the moment, like right after he died, I was like, oh, I see also why I was really called into this, like choosing to live. Like that's exactly how my dad lived his life. And choosing that for me in the past, in the last few months of his life felt like such a gift, felt like and feels like to this day like such a connection in energy and spirit in truth.
mm. Wow. Ooh, I got full body chills right now. It's, I'm getting emotional. It's such an incredible experience when somebody's life or journey is complete, whether that's passing on or just a really pivotal moment in their life, and the energy from their experience then gives us more clarity around our soul purpose. And
Hmm.
that's I feel like that's a really special experience. I don't feel like many people have the privilege of experiencing that in their lifetime. So thank you for sharing that, because I feel the same way. And I love how you talked about completion. I loved how you talked about, that part of my business, that part of my life that felt complete, and there wasn't really much else to do. It was like that was complete. Something else was starting, and you felt that deep, deep, deep within. And I was actually just having this conversation last week around when I quit drinking, because one of my clients asked me, um, well, a lot of people ask me this, is like, how did you spend 13 years in deep alcoholism and functioning alcoholism and trying to get sober, and then all of a sudden you're just sober? It's like quitting cold turkey and you're not going to treatment and all of this stuff. And I said, once I realized that living my life and my journey the way that I am supposed to and letting things come to completion is the way the that's the space that I find the most success in, right? Instead of doing things the way that somebody says you're supposed to do it for as long as you're supposed to do it and having the support that they say that you're supposed to support. And it's like when I truly learned how I operate, it's like I when I want to do something, I have to do it to completion. It's like whether it's a success or a failure, I cannot just move forward without knowing what could have been or what would have been. And so when it came to my drinking, that had to come to a completion before I was ready. And then that day that I made that choice, it was like, this has come to a completion and I'm moving on to the next chapter of my life. And I literally quantum leaped in that moment. And so a lot of people will ask me like, and how the hell do you actually quantum leap into sobriety? I'm like, well, that part of my journey came to completion and I made the conscious decision that that was the end of that. And we're now moving forward into the next chapter of our life. And so I love that you brought that to the table because I really do believe that if more people would just open their heart and open their mind to so many more possibilities available being available to them, doing things the way that they feel like doing them and not the way that they feel like they're supposed to do them, we would we would be able to explore many more of those possibilities in our lifetime.
Yeah, I completely agree. And this is the
Yeah.
interesting thing about completion energy because I feel like often things go one of two ways. It's like we don't see things through to completion because we like bail, we jump ship. It's like, oh no, this feels too hard, or this is too scary, or this is too uncomfortable, or too
Mm,
unknown, or all the fears come in, or I feel I'm not enough or not worthy. Like that's one reason that we,
yep.
go off and
Yeah.
don't see things through to completion. And then the other times is we don't decide that things are complete because we feel that they're complete. And so we wait and we wait and we wait and we hang on to things because it feels like oftentimes it's like the completion has come in for many of us in experiences in our life because something bad happens. It's like something bad happens. So it's complete. So whether it's, the ending of a relationship, a business, like we don't trust in our truth beforehand. We don't trust in the knowing that we have that it's complete. And so my business previous to this is a very good example of this, I feel, because people asked us, they're like, so did it stop working? Like, did you guys, I was in a business partnership with my best friend. Like, did you guys have a big fallout? And we were like,
Yeah.
no, actually, it felt like such a clear knowing that it was complete and was with this like decision, this
Mm,
choice. And I remember the conversation her and I had. I was like, I want to exit this business, complete this business in the frequency we began in, with intention, with love, with like expansion in our own realm of personal power. And this is where I do feel we often get off track. It's like we don't stand in our power and trust in what we feel and trust in what we know. And again, this brings us back to the belief codes and trusting in the unknown. It's like, well, this is working, so why wouldn't I keep doing it? Or it's not horrible, it's not bad, so why would I choose to go into that place that feels
mm.
scary and uncomfortable and unknown? And for me, it's like because I can't not. Once I feel it in my soul, like I am not willing to deny my soul.
Yeah, this conversation it's crazy how I had an intention and now we're literally the contrast between your business and my alcoholism and it's like coming together in the most beautiful way. But what you just said about assuming that something bad has happened because it came to an end. It's like when I got sober, people had asked me the same thing. Well, like what happened? Like yeah, I know you. You wouldn't have just quit drinking to quit drinking. And it was like, well, I actually had the moment of clarity of, well, I haven't gotten a DUI yet. I haven't crashed my car drunk yet. I haven't had to be hospitalized for detox yet. I haven't done something horrible yet. And it was like it just came to the point where I don't want to find out what that looks like because I know that my purpose is far beyond exploring that arena of destruction. And so I love that you brought that forward, that it's just that assumptiveness of like, oh, you're done because it ended. It was like my second marriage. Oh, you're done because something, it's like, well, no, we just decided that it wasn't a good fit for us. But it's that conditioned response to think that something horrible happened because it comes to an end, where really we should be exploring how we can really trust our intuition and really trust what we are meant to do, and just allow it to end with grace, and have that completion be something that you can learn from, shed gratefully, and move on with your life, instead of it being this like destructive dramatic entrance or exit that everybody thinks that completion means, or like the end of something means, that that doesn't always have to end bad. So I love that you brought that here, because so many examples of things that have come to an end in my life where it wasn't bad, it just was. And I trusted myself that it didn't have to get to the point where, even if it was good or bad, it didn't need to be this dramatic exit. It just was. So I love that you brought that here. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it just was, and it just gets to be. And I feel like this too brings us back into this like, you get to choose, you get to decide. You decide what you believe, you decide what you want to experience in this lifetime. And then that's again where we come and we clean up the energy leaks around that, the belief codes that don't align with what we've decided we're here to experience on this human journey and the soul journey. And I feel like I've never fully answered your question around the living makes me money belief code. And I decided at that moment that I felt that I wanted to create spaciousness and dedicate my year and now forevermore to living and loving. I was like, I what I know now, I will say, is that I believe the most powerful transformations come from each of us sharing our truth, sharing our lived experiences, sharing through storytelling. And so I've got to live. I've got to live. I've got to have this lived wisdom. I've got to live to be in the embodied wisdom. And
Mm,
so living puts, creates such a magnetic field around me. When I'm living, I experience more truth of who I am. I have more to share with my clients. I have more to share with my audience. When I'm living, all of a sudden, it's like, this is where I'm out of my head. That's where the divine downloads, or I call them the uploads, because I feel like the divine, like, truth comes from my soul. Like, this is where all the magic happens again. And so, this is why I say the more I live, the more money I make. One, because I'm experiencing the truth of who I am. I'm not caught up in my head. I'm not buying into the old belief codes. I'm not seeing the distortions. It's like, this is what life is about. I'm here to live. I'm here to love. I'm here to experience the freedom of who I am. I'm here to be the fullest expression of who I am. And when we stand in conviction of that, when we stand in the power and the knowing of who we are, that's attractive. That's magnetic. That's
mhm.
what draws my soul clients to me. That's why living makes me money.
Mhm. I love that. Oh, I love that so much. And I've really been fully embodied in this. And since I made the big shift in my business, which was also scary as hell, and really just living in my truth and my purpose, and not for everybody else, but for myself first. And I just feel like that is where we can serve at our highest capacity, is when we're living our life for us first. I want to touch on one of the things that you said in the beginning about shifting your selling structure. And the reason why I want to bring this is because a lot of my listeners are going through transitions right now where they are detaching tangible promises from their offers. And that can be scary, because we all know in this industry that we've kind of built around having tangibles attached to our offers. It's, what we think is attractive about the work that we do. And I've really been one of the most popular conversations in my space lately, because of the messaging and the content that I've been putting out about detaching a promise or a tangible, and really just giving the overality of the experience of working with me. I would love to know, like, when that shifted for you and what that looked like. You talked about changing the way that you sell your offers. What did that shift look like for you? And what was kind of the behind the scenes experience of being able to detach from, like, little end goals and more towards just the overall experience of working with you?
Well, you're gonna find you maybe have already noticed that I'm really bad at answering questions because oftentimes I'm like, well, I just want to go in this direction.
You're
So
fine. Wherever it takes us.
I will come back to answering this question, but first I want to dive into what you said here about the tangible, because I feel like this is important before we dive into the next piece. What I know from my own experience and through leading many women through this, like shifting from like their offers, their selling, their marketing to be very tangible, is that if your work is not in the tangible, you're actually creating, again, these distortions. You're making it harder for your clients, your soul clients to find you because you're putting forth things in the tangible realm. And so people are feeling that energetically. They're feeling the like, oop, like just like the boom, like the mind, the, where that human energy comes in. And so for me, I don't lead in the tangible. My mentorship is not about things that are tangible. It's again, it's this truth, it's trust, it's not needing to have evidence before you see, before you believe,
Mhm.
before you know. And so I started to really recognize that when I was marketing with the tangible, I was not attracting the most aligned clients into my world. They were coming in with expectation, of course, because of what my selling, my marketing looked like. And so this for me was very much coming in. Can I trust in the truth of who I am, being who I am, sharing my lived wisdom, sharing my experienced truth? That's enough. Like that's enough to attract my soul clients. And this is a big shift. This is a big shift when we're used to operating in one way, when we've gotten results one way.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, who do I want to be? I was gonna say, who do I want to be next? But it doesn't even feel like that. Like it's a shift in identity. It's like just owning, like, this is who I am. This is how I lead. This is my truth. This is how I want to move going forward. And so, again, I feel like it just comes back to this deciding, this moment of deciding, like, I'm no longer willing, is what it felt like for me. Like, I'm no longer
Yeah.
willing to play the like marketing game, the selling game, the strategy in the way that many of us have been taught and told because it feels like everything then is focused on the results. And I know that the result comes to light, the result comes into fruition. We manifest based on, again, what I said before, the knowing, the belief codes, the believing, the knowing then creates the experiencing. So I looked at where I was actually really limiting things, really limiting my experiences and my results by having this like solid, tangible thing driving me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so happy that I asked you that question. And you actually, you really did answer it because it's like selling with tangibles is completely different than just selling the overality of our work, right? It's like when we sell the experience and not even selling the experience, just talking about what you can experience when you work with us is it's just such a different it really does attract such a different caliber of person and a different caliber of human being, somebody who really truly desires to figure it out within themselves and not base everything on the external results and what they get and what they can receive, but more so what they already have available to them, just needing the vehicle to get there and really dive deep and discover that, because that can also be a very terrifying journey to take alone. So when you're working with your clients, your offers right now are you have three offers, correct? You have your prayer portal, you have your devoted mastermind, and then you have one-on-one close proximity work.
I mean, I have offers that are changing and shifting all of the time. Like my offers never stay the same. The only thing that really stays the same in my world that's consistent in offering is my devoted mastermind. Because that is just my favorite place. It's my like open enrollment ongoing mastermind. But like right now, my one-to-one offer literally today is shifting. The prayer portal is a free space that I hold, and it's literally we come together in collective prayer energy each week. I have a new free offering, a mentorship offer coming out that's beginning next week. Belief codes. I do like these short, potent Voxer spaces. I have a line 6 mastermind coming up. Like I and I'm sharing all of this right now because like nothing ever looks the same in my business. What I've really found for myself too, and with selling, with leading my clients, I don't like things to feel predictable. I don't like things
Mm,
to be like, there's this, then there's this, then there's this. And I know that this is what really works for some people in their business, and having that like set and foundation works. For me, it's very much like, oop, I feel activated in this right now. I feel called to do this right now. And so sometimes I'll open up a 4-day Voxer space. Sometimes I open up a 10-week Voxer space. Sometimes I open up like it's my offers constantly shift.
yeah, it's just whatever you feel and leading with that. And I love that so much. And that's really shifted in my business structure as well. It was the kind of shifting from banking on selling a bunch of offers every month and really now just having these potent sacred spaces that are really, I mean, there's no like beginner way to work with me. I do have a couple of free offers, but really those spaces where I just want to keep evolving them. I want to keep refining them. I want to keep just diving into the client experience and making it better and better and better. And that just feels so good to me. When you,
Well,
yeah, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. I was just going to say this is the cool thing about this conversation. And when I stepped away from like leading in the tangible, like I would say when I was really leading in the tangible, I was very much in the like, I launch a new course every month and like, this is what happens. And there's a free masterclass and there's a course and there's an upgrade into a mastermind and there's an upgrade into a one-to-one. You know, it was very much like, this is the journey you follow and this makes sense. And now, and this was part of my experiment, I would say, of the year of not selling in the way that I had before on my social media. Like that's what I really wanted to move away from. I was like, that feels like it takes up a lot of space in my mind. It feels like I don't have spaciousness in my life because every moment there's a launch or there's something next coming. And so now, like, I just said that there's like 4 offers coming that I'm literally, I've dropped them for my email list and pre-sale, but I'll start talking about them next week. And like I can open all the doorways at once and then I can trust in people coming into the $777 offer or the 17K offer and anywhere in between the 6-figure offer. Like it doesn't, it's like I just get to open the doors and I actually love to sell often in this way. It's like when one idea comes through, then there's like 4 other ideas that come through and I'll sell them all at once. And then all of a sudden I'll stop selling and my social media will just be about me expressing who I am. My podcast is just about me sharing. And then there's no selling. And people are like, is there any offers I can come into? And it's like, well, there's always the devoted mastermind. Outside of that, no, I don't have spaces open right now. Even the other day, I just had like kind of felt into this for myself and I haven't fully decided, but I mean, it kind of popped up for me. So I'm sure I'll follow through on this. But like July and August, I just feel like I'm not going to sell. Like I don't want to. And it doesn't mean that new people won't come into my world. It doesn't mean that I'm like taking the summer off and not serving my clients, but I just trust that the people who want to work with me in July and August will either come in June or they'll send me a message in July and say, I know you're not selling anything right now, but like, do you have any spaces? Like, this is what I mean. And I just like, I get
Yeah.
to like, there's no structure around this since I moved away from the like, I've got to create this formula so that people will buy. I've got to take people from
Mm,
A to B to C. It's like, I just get to be who I am. I get to live. I get to serve my clients at like the deepest way that I serve them. And I get to trust in all the magic that we create. And it doesn't need to look the way that anyone else says it should look or feel or be.
yes. Wow. What a huge permission slip for the listeners, I'm sure. I have recently, I'll wrap this up with kind of touching on what you just said with, sometimes I'm selling 4 offers, and then sometimes I'm just leaning back and enjoying my life, and sometimes I'm not selling at all. And it really is that balance between knowing when to tap into the masculine energetics of business and then just learning how to lean back in our feminine and submit to our own life and experience our own life and just enjoy the fruits of our labor now. Like, what is creating wealth if we're just going to wait to enjoy it 10 years before we die? And so I talk about this so often because I'm all about creating the life now that you desire to live out throughout the rest of your life on earth and not just waiting for it to bring abundance and money, you know, 20, 30, 40 years down the road. It's like, who wants to wait for that? It's like, why would you not want the fruits of your labors now? So I love the balance that you not only, model for your clients, but that you just embody and experience in your own life. So my last question, just for the audience, is if you were in a place of having those stacked habits of just being in the masculine business energetics all the time and just go, 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 go. And it's like, even when I try to lean back and in my business and just enjoy my life, it's like so hard because I feel like I should be doing something. What is one like potent tool that they could just take with them or apply to their life to start really releasing the need to be on the go all the time in their business?
So I would bring into like this high level of awareness for myself where I have belief codes tied into doing equals receiving. Doing makes me worthy because this is where we get, really stuck in that loop of like, I've got to do and like do, because otherwise there's not the, like you said, like there's no permission to be in the receiving energy. And then even when you are in lean back energy, when you are in that, more feminine energy, often we then create the evidence of like, well, see, like
Hmm.
money just doesn't fall into my lap if I'm not doing. Like, see, I was right. So now I know I need to do. Well, this is where I say the belief code, that knowing has to come before the experiencing. But
Mm.
often people are trying to wait for the experience to happen so that they can believe it. And so, an example of this, just recently I had a woman come to Costa Rica to do a private in-person experience with me. And she came and signed up and said yes to this experience in a period of time that I wasn't selling. And she sent me a message and she's like, "Do you have anything coming up in Costa Rica?" And I was like, "I have a group experience happening in November 2024." And she's like, "Nope, I don't want to wait that long. Do you have anything else?" And I was like, "I have a private 2 day 20K offer." And she's like, "Yep, done in." Well, that didn't take me shouting from the rooftops about it. It took me again, like I was in the moments of living my life, but my belief before that was always like people are finding their way to me. People want to pay me. People, there was all these belief codes backing me having that experience. But if I waited to have that experience to be like, oh, now I can stop the hustle. Now I can stop the forced
Mm.
sales. Now I can stop the convincing. Now I can stop. That's not the way it works.
Mm.
And when I look at our belief codes, when I think of the actions that I'm taking, so if I'm in this doing energy that you're talking about, or feeling I need to or have to, I ask myself this question. If I get the result I want right now, what is the belief code I'm going to code in here? And so if I have the 100K launch by doing, what am I going to code in? Well, that I have to do X, Y, and Z in order to have a successful launch. Is that a belief code I want to code in? No, I've just said I want this and I want that. Well, then my actions that I take have to align with what I'm wanting to experience, not what I have the evidence of, the proof of.
Mm. Well, we just brought that full circle, babe. Literally tied it in from the beginning of the conversation to now. I love, love, love this conversation. And I'm really glad that that whatever technical difficulties we had last week happened because I feel like this was just so many people are going to benefit from hearing all of this. And I mean, it's us, so obviously I love us so much.
I love us. Every time you just say those words, I get like little goosebumps and tingling through my soul. Like, I love us.
I
I
just turned into
love
one giant goosebump.
Yeah, I love us. I love these conversations. I mean, trust and know deeply that there was a reason why last week didn't work and we're here and landing today. So thank you. Thank you for this beautiful conversation. Thank you for introducing me to your listeners. I
Yes.
love that this is us and that this feels like, it feels like I want to say the beginning of us and also just the middle of us
Oh,
and
I know.
all
Wait
of
till fall, though. Oh my gosh. I'm just like, I dream about it. I daydream about it all the time. I have your check on my desk, literally. I'm just so excited.
I cannot wait.
All right, Jack, let us know where we can find you. Let us know if you feel like spilling the beans on the behind the scenes offers, or if you want to wait to share that. Let us know where we can find you. Let us know how my audience can work with you. And I will also put this in the description of the podcast.
Well, my favorite two places to find me are my own podcast because podcasting, as you can probably tell from this episode, is just my favorite. It allows me to go into like the depth of these conversations. So that's the Jaclyn Shaw Show. And then Instagram is also where I typically hang when I am on social media, and it's Jaclyn_Shaw_. And yeah, the offers that I have coming out. So next week, I'm hosting a free mentorship experience with me. It's actually a 3-week mentorship experience. It includes a transmission, a energy clearing and activation, and then a mentorship space with me where you get to ask questions. And it's called Belief Codes. And within the Belief Codes experience is where I'm sharing the new offers that I'm bringing forward. I don't think I'm going to sell them publicly. I think it's just going to be for the women in that space. I haven't even announced that space publicly yet, and I think there's 400 or 500 women in that space already, so it is gonna be incredible and expansive, and so I would invite anyone listening, if you wanna dive deeper into belief code work and really recoding from this depth within, that free mentorship experience kicks off May 7th, and then you'll also receive the information on the other ways that you can drop in and work with me if that's feeling aligned in your soul.
Hmm. I don't want it to end.
Well,
Okay.
we could just probably go for hours, truthfully, but
I really truly believe that, but we will I just love it so much. I love us. I love us. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'm also going to drop the link in the description for our episode on Jack's podcast. So you all can go listen to that if you have not yet. And
yes, please do because people
yes.
loved that episode. I've received so many
Oh, I
messages from
still
that
have people
episode.
reaching out. I still have people reaching out. Oh, I listened to your and Jack's podcast. And when I was announcing that we were doing a podcast on With Love Nick, I had people responding to the story. Oh, you and Jack in the same room, drool. And I'm like, I know. I
I
know. I
know,
love
I know. I love
us.
it. I love it. Oh my
uh,
gosh, thank you, thank you, thank you.
yes. Thank you so much for joining me. To all of my listeners, thank you so much for joining Jack and I. I will see you on the next episode of With Love Nick, with love, Nick and Jack.